Namaste. This is The Interview and I am Arun Deo Joshi. In The Interview, we will be seeking views of different personalities from different sectors in Nepal, and different diplomatic missions will be also coming with us to talk in this The Interview. Today, we are talking to Dr. Madhusudhan Adhikari. He is Executive Director, Alternative Energy Promotion Center of Nepal, and we'll be talking about scenario of alternative energy in Nepal and almost whole energy sector, how it's going and how it is achieving to its goals and several other issues. I would like to welcome Dr. Adhikari. Dr.
Namaste, Arunji.
Swagat hai.
Thank you.
Just I said we'll be talking about, you are in charge of the alternative energy, one of the main organization of alternative energy promotion in Nepal, and alternative energy and the carbon emission and all these things are correlated things. We have since these issues are there, we have the alternative energy, and Nepal has set a target of net zero emission by 2045 AD. Yes. And how we are going to achieve this thing, or we are in the view of achieving this, or we are lacking somewhere? What is the scenario?
Thank you very much. Very important question. The main agenda in the current century is the climate change and how to protect the earth from the climate change impacts, negative impacts, and the whole globe is unified to tackle these climate change issues. And then the UNFCCC, which is the main governing body, we call it United Nations Framework Climate Convention on Climate Change, has created one intergovernmental parties on study the science of the earth. So this committee has recommended that if our current practices, human development practices are continued, then it will have very adverse effect in the climate ecology. Basically, the ecosystem of the climate will be destroyed, and it will be very difficult for the living things, even in the planet, in this earth. So this main agenda is now then discussed how can we mitigate it. So one of the main reasons or culprit of climate change is the emission of these greenhouse gases. The out of the total 100% emission currently we have, 33% comes from the energy generation systems. So if we do the better practices in energy generation,
and that may be use of the fossil fuels.
Basically, the current practices, we are generating energy mainly from the fossil fuels, coal, diesel, petrol, natural gases and all, and even burning of firewood and forest residues and all. Biomass. So this is the main culprit, which is the main cause of greenhouse gas emission. So the globe has focused on transforming energy generation system from traditional and the fossil fuel based to modern renewable energy system. So that system is basically had a short term, medium term and long term target. How can we reduce the emission of greenhouse gases from energy generation systems, including all. But when we talk about these long-term strategies, now the United Nations, this framework convention has called the countries. We every year we do this conference of party called COP. There, the leaders of the world come there and make some decisions how to plan for future
some
and commitments and all. So this now the Paris Convention in 2015, which was the 21st COP, has a very serious mandate on how to move on this, and this has initiated two initiatives. One is called the nationally determined contribution. So how
for this net zero emission,
for the towards the path on the net zero emission, how to reduce voluntarily, what you can commit to cut the emission.
So this is 2045 is a global target, or Nepal is our own
No,
target?
then we have this voluntary contribution on NDC, we call nationally determined contribution. That is claiming, a nation claiming that I can do these good practices and reduce the carbon emission to this scale. Now next, the above than the long-term strategies, then this convention has called countries to voluntarily declare when they can be carbon neutral or carbon zero emission country. So different countries looking on their perspective of carbon emission, their resources availability and all. Nepal has claimed that maybe Nepal can be net zero by 2045, whereas if you compare with India, India is still talking 2070.
Okay.
So country is huge.
So-
India
so-
is a, so it's a country based a
So
plan.
we are more ambitious than India then.
Yeah, kind of. I think in terms of the target here, we are more ambitious because our practices are.
So what are we actually doing to reduce this consumption of fossil fuels, biomass, and promoting clean energy? What are we currently doing to achieve this very ambitious our target?
Yeah, basically, I think we are now, in terms of the resources, Nepal has a lot of hydro resources, and solar energy resources are abundant here. But currently, the out of the total energy we use more than 90% either the biomass fuel and imported petroleum product in terms of energy. In terms of electricity, we have reached to around 95% of the population with electricity for lighting. But other like cooking, transportation, industrial fuel, we still using heavily biomass and imported fuel. So Nepal's plan is basically replacing the biomass systems like cooking energy into electrifying the cooking system, transport, electrifying the transportation system, e-vehicles and all. So Nepal's main plan is to replace first the cooking and transportation energy, then going towards the replacing industrial fuels and other fuel switching we call it, or energy transition we call it.
And where does APC stand in this target?
So APC has been here for last 26 years, basically focusing on both the agenda. One was like reaching people with electricity, because there was a almost all dark when we go 25 years when ABC was established.
That there was a subsidiary plan. For
Yeah,
that?
we had this subsidy scheme to use the local resources like hydro resources to construct hydropower, small hydropower, we call it micro hydro. Then from 2000 we started to promote sort of solar photovoltaic system based on a house level. Now we are moving to scale them up in the community levels like solar mini grid, waste to energy project, biogas to waste to energy project, micro hydro to mini hydros. The basic things I think we need to focus from APC in days to come is how can we, because having electricity surplus, having cooking system still on traditional will not match. Someone has to work on this, mobilizing the locals, awareness creation program from different channels, then some implementation modalities. So the first target is to replace the cooking energy by electricity and also the transportation energy. And
that is from you are talking biogas plants also. Biogas
we
supports program.
started with the biogas because biogas is much cleaner than wood, but now the main focus from last 3 years, as we all know, Nepal is gradually getting more.
So now
more,
biogas is not the target.
no, biogas is still there, but mainly now I think the people's focus is how to convert into electricity system. Biogas will be there, but main focus is we are having surplus electricity generation from last year, mainly in as of now in the summer season, but in couple of years we will be year around surplus in energy from the lighting existing load. So we are basically focusing on also promoting electric cooking stoves.
So normally when we say electricity, we think about the hydro only.
Yeah.
So there are different means about other electricity also,
Also,
like solar energy, wind energy, and
Yeah.
other even geothermal energy also
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So what are the other sources of energy alternative APC is working on
Yeah,
currently?
basically Nepal is, as you correctly said, Nepal is very heavily having hydro resources. So Nepal Electricity Authority is primarily working hydro energy systems. We have reached around 2300 megawatt generation capacity, and we have a big plan to move ahead local market growth and export and all. But APC was from the beginning looking other small technologies like solar technologies, wind technologies, geothermal technologies. All this also possible in Nepal. In case of Nepal, we have a lot of plenty of solar resources. We have 300 plus sunny days and 4 to 5 hours peak sun, we call it, full 1000 watt per meter per square per meter. That kind of sun resources we are having, and also we have wind
Wind energy.
resources, geothermal tatopani areas, we call it. So these are still, we thought, we are still thinking, but the time has changed. We were still thinking, that hydro will be cheapest and best for Nepal. But now slowly we have reached to a situation where we have to evaluate solar, wind, and other sources.
So will other source of energy like wind, solar, and other like geothermal, you said, these will be relevant in context to hydro. It will be cheaper or it will be more convenient.
Yeah, depend upon which kind of size you are talking, but in general, the solar has come with a very big price reduction in this last 10 years. So solar has become competitive, but solar has the price advantage, fast deployment possibility, but it has to be dependent with others. Like it cannot be 24/7. It can be only when there is a sun. So you can produce lot of solar energy in the daytime, but you have to create complementarities with storage, hydro, and other sources. But in terms of price, solar has become almost cheapest energy resources in general, but in specific project context anything can be cheaper. But in our difficult terrain, like we have mountains, very difficult transportation arrangement, long routes, low consumption, we think the localized wind, localized geothermal could also be appropriate in remote locations where resources are nearby. Then you cut off the long transmission and distribution network, and now the federalist government system is there, so the local level government can use their resources, and also as a demonstration project. So these are possible in a small scale, but in big scale, hydro plus solar is going to be a future.
And what are the wind energy? Lots of time it is said that wind energy is a failure in Nepal, and sometimes there's still possibilities of cheaper and viable wind energy. What is the situation?
Yeah, I think it's partially true that some of the demonstration scheme we deployed in a small scale in past are functioning or are having difficulties to run it because of other electronic system integrated with the wind system. But in general, APC has installed 10 to 10 20 wind gauging stations where possibility of deployment of wind powers is there, but given to the condition of the bigger size wind plant need a good road to transport. The blades of the wind turbines are pretty long, so transportation should be.
So there are some areas identified in Nepal that will
Yeah.
be better for the wind energy.
Yeah, we have some data. I think in this Karnali, Gauch, Mustang area, some areas in
Like
Ramechhap,
we have some practice in Mustang.
Mustang, we did in the past. We are still having a small pilot project in many part of these Ramechhap, Bhutan, and all these areas. But I think for Nepal, as I said, in some particular locations, just to serve that community, solar wind hybrid could be optimal thing. But in general, I think in our cases,
So if the hybrid, it can be worked in the night time also.
nighttime,
If the wind
daytime
comes.
solar,
Yeah.
nighttime wind, or sometime when there is availability
There's a
of.
practice of that thing in the
Yeah, we
world.
have done 6, 7 such small scale hybrid projects.
Small project those are hybrid.
Yeah,
Okay.
solar and wind hybrid. Because what you do is normally
What is the success?
success, the demonstration is successful, but the only one issue for the sustainable use by local people, local community organization is a challenge. The modality mostly APC adopts is if we work with the communities in the first installation it helps everything, and then hand over to community. We had this example of failure in the long term management skill of the community, and resources needed. Sometimes you have the lightning disaster which destroys the electronics or the wind turbines, then you have to replace it. This kind of problem has come, but what I think the conclusion so far is maybe there could be a specific areas where this hybrid can work. Otherwise, now we have already reached around 95% by our grid, and the solar is much more simpler and more effective than the wind. So maybe for now, the hydro and solar combined or separate will be better than wind. That's kind of conclusion we have.
Okay, in the current context of electrification, like you said, we are
Yeah.
gradually nation itself is wanting towards moving to the
Yeah.
electrification,
Yeah.
using less or less fossil fuels and
Yeah,
other
yeah.
kinds of fuels. And you said APC is also working towards this achieving the goal of the
Yeah.
country.
Yeah.
And in the current context, what do you feel? Is it solar energy you should target, or you are targeting, or it's a mini hydro like you said,
Yes.
or or other source of energy, and where you stand in this context of electrification? What would be the main contribution for this for towards this by the APC?
Yeah, this thing now we are the both NEA, Nepal Electricity Authority, and Alternative Energy Promotion, both are under the premises of Ministry of Energy. So we are in good coordination. This year, we have developed a comprehensive plan of electrification. That's we call it last mile electrification program, which clearly laid out where any national grid is reaching, where any APC is active, and what is remained, and what could be the best technology in that areas. So that plan is already ready, and what kind of budget. So we have already gone down to the ward level in the municipalities. This ward can be used by other alternative from APC. This what can bring the national grid. So this plan is already ready. The main thing is, I think, depending on our geographical situation, even the ADB has done a master plan, distribution master plan, that suggests that maybe 1% of the population of Nepal, because of the geographical situation, could be best fit by distributed generation from alternative energy sources, rather than struggling to bring the national grid, which is very expensive. That is one situation. The second situation is that due to the climate change effect, maybe the hydro have some natural calamities in days to come, and also because earthquake and others. So we need to have a distributed generation. The generation should not be focused in one area and you have long transmission and distribution going to the other area. So you should have proper balance of big transmission line supplemented by distributed generation of small solar. It's when we talk about a small solar, maybe 10 megawatt, 5 megawatt, 1 megawatt, 500 kilowatt, as appropriate in the location. Like you go from, like now current situation, we go from Kohalpur to up to Kalikot, maybe aiming to go to Mugu from one single line. That will be not enough for the reliability.
When you are saying this, like you said, you are working with NEA also,
Yes.
but there are different actors that are
Yeah.
attached to the energy sector in Nepal, and they are working separately, more or less separately, and the vision and policies also looks to be separate.
Yeah.
And there need to be umbrella policy, right? I think there is no any such kind of umbrella policy. So what should be done for your organization to contribute towards this thing, and working with NEA and maybe other source of energy generating agencies? What could be your suggestion? How you are trying to influence this thing, making umbrella policy or this thing is there?
Yeah, definitely. I think you hit a very right point. Now, Nepal is still struggling from last 20 years to revise its electricity bill. The electricity bill 2049 was primarily focused on the situation then, and is mainly focusing one technology, the hydropower. Now, over a period of 30 years, 45 to 55, 59, 69 and 79, we are 30 years after, we need to change our electricity act, which is a basic primary umbrella act which governs generation, technology, transmission, distribution, consumption and export. So that policy needs to be redesigned in a contemporary ways to cover all the aspects of recent changes. So that draft is already ready, and also the current political changes like three-tier of government should be addressed by the law, so that there will be no conflict on the generation, transmission, distribution, consumption, and also the benefit of all the natural resources. Maybe some provinces has more hydro resources. They claim that their resources should be used by themselves itself. So this kind of things needs to be addressed by the Umbrella Act, which is the Electricity Act. Then in that act there will be provision for different aspects. There will be provision for distributed small scale renewable energy mix like this. This act must have addressed the other energies like waste to energy, bioenergy, biomass energy. So our advocacy, APC's advocacy, we have a lot of support from the development partners also. We have resources to work on and discuss on all these issues. So we are focusing to not to exclude anything, because these laws cannot be changed now and then. You should have the provision so that it cannot be redundant.
So you think this umbrella policy will be there soon?
Yeah, that
Even like some few years back, you were not part of the energy ministry as well. You were the part of the environment ministry.
Yeah. So that I think that move was also very thoughtfully done to synthesize the small unit, alternative energy unit, with a bigger NEA unit, and synchronize to do the complementary work on completing the electrification. And we have the challenge like NEA's primary role is to generate and transmit and distribute. But when it goes to the consumption side, demand side, someone has to work, because these demand side include not only electricity, it needs safety, consumption pattern, tariff, and also the awareness creation to buy good equipment. We are also working, APC is also mandated to work on energy efficiency. It's the age now, we have to economically use the available resources. We should not spree to produce more and more and use unwisely, inefficiently. So energy efficiency is in the global agenda is energy saving is energy generation. So you should have, without compromising your end product, you should think and design a system to use less energy. So that mandate is also APC. So APC is basically working on the demand side and in the research and development to have adapted resource to make people to use electricity and get benefit and replace the traditional and the imported fuel. So
And-
that area is clear.
And I just said before, you were the part of the environment ministry.
Yeah.
APC has been also part of the working in the climate change
Yes.
issues
Yeah.
in Nepal, and
Yeah.
the contribution towards the global agenda
Yeah.
for the climate change
Yeah.
for the Nepal. Still, you are working in that, or but the mandate has been changed.
No, it's I think the in the climate change issues, our environment forest ministry has a climate division, which is primarily a responsible organization, and that organization has the mandate, and AEPC as is working from in the climate issue from many years. When we were in the climate the environment ministry, at that time we were the first entity to design this carbon project, clean development mechanism, we call it CDM. Out of our biogas, micro hydro, and improved water mills, we have designed 8 CDM project, got it approved, and we have already reduced 55 million number of CER, registered CER. We sold them in the international market. CER is a certified emission reduction.
Okay.
If you reduce 1 ton of carbon dioxide emission and certified, there is a mechanism to certify it. How can you reduce it or replace it? Then you get 1 CER equivalent. So that is counted as 1 unit to sell.
That's
So
that's what we say, it is converted to carbon dollar.
carbon dollar. So that CR we had already sold, we are still selling. We have already sold 5 million CR and generated 30 million dollar income to the government of Nepal. So this process is continued with the old CDM mechanism, which from the Paris agreement, this clause 6 has also provision to convert into the new methodology. But this is continued. We have already earned 30 million, and we are the first entity to be certified as a direct access entity in Green Climate Fund, which is a newer financial resource mobilization wing of climate change division of this UNFCCC. So the Nepal AEPC was the first entity, and recently we have received two projects. One, a project of improving 1 million cook stove in Tarai, 22 Tarai district, which is of value of 49.15 million, which is around 6 Arab rupees in Nepali. That will be converting into 10 lakh stoves. 5 lakhs are electric stove and other improved stove. So this is one big project, and also we are the readiness preparatory body. Ministry of Finance is the focal body for the Green Climate Fund. We call it National Designated Authority. They have subcontracted, they have trusted us this readiness program, which is a small program, but is to create the environment to the all the stakeholders to get more and more benefit from the climate Green Climate Fund. So APC is primarily objectively a body which has got the benefit from the climate development mechanism.
Okay, and talking about this current context of federal Nepal federal system.
Yes.
So how you feel that the decentralization or taking it to the federal governments and working together with different federal organizations, federal governments.
Yeah.
How you are actually doing this thing, or you are still trying to this thing? Or what do you feel? It is important to do this, or it just want to be a central mechanism?
No, this is very important question also, because this is after the federal structures, the small scale technology, very clearly the alternative technology is mandated to the lowest level of the government, the LG, local level government. Constitutional arrangement is there. But their capacity, the 750 such small entity just started to think holistic development in their geographical area. This renewable energy issue, they need to be capacitated and need to be capable to implement this. It's not a rocket science, but you need certain skill to be developed. So the first thing we did after this federal structure is we signed a MOU with all seven federal state province, and then agreed to support them. And all the work we do today, whether we distribute the subsidy or joint implementation our small scale project.
So there is a separate entity of alternative energy there in the different state.
Now we had some arrangement to depute some technical expert in Ministry of Infrastructure in the local level, but we clearly
So what do you feel? We need to have a separate entity over there. It will be helpful, or
I think for some time, for 5 to 10 years, it could be expert of people. We may have to have a branch of APC.
So maybe they have their independent issue, and they could address their independent issue differently.
But I think they need advisory services, technical advisory services, and some procedures, some quality assurance and all. So we plan to have from the support of the development partner. As I mentioned, we work with a lot of development partners. So out of 7 federal states, we province 1 and province 7, we are working with the German GIZ.
Okay.
In province 2, Karnali province and Lumini province, we are working with UKAD. In province 3, Bagmati province and Gandaki province, we are working with his WWF, which Prakriti Resource Center has brought in one job. So somehow we have arranged some resources to capacitate all 7 provinces, and in each and every project, big or small, even distributing subsidy, when there is a recommendation to come, we must have a recommendation from the lowest possible level that this system is installed here, and I have checked it. So this kind of provision we have made so that the local levels are all fully on board, but there is a grievance from their side that they do not want only the certification, they want the resources, they want the budget to be reaching to that end. That discussion is on.
Listening to you, we can see we are quite ambitious and we are about to towards achieving our goals, and hopefully we'll do it with our electrification project.
Yeah.
Nepal we will be able to cut the fossil fuels and biogas, and
Yeah.
will contribute to the world
Yeah.
zero emission policy.
Yeah.
Thank you for your precious time, and hope your organization grows and
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think Nepal is in the forefront of the commitment to work with the climate change issues.
Today we are with Dr. Madhusudhan Adhikari, Executive Director of Alternative Energy Promotion Center, Nepal. We will be talking to different personalities in our other issues. Thank you.